were you aware at the time that you took on your role that Post Office and Branch Accounting were responsible for issuing transaction corrections to recover from sub-postmasters accounting shortfalls shown by Horizon?
I believe I would have been aware shortly after joining, either through conversations with Mr. Ismay during my induction or having read the now called Ismay report.
I will come on to that in a moment, but before I do, do you recall what you were told about that process of issuing transaction corrections?
I don't.
It was shortly after you took up your role as CFO that you received an email, an attachment from Mr. Ismay relating to challenges to the integrity of Horizon. Is that right?
Correct.
It's an email from Mr. Ismay to you, Mr. Day, on the 8th of September 2011, so relatively shortly after you took up. I think you said August 2011 was when you started in the role of CFO. The subject of the email is Horizon Challenges, a report dated 2nd of August 2010. Mr. Ismay says, Chris, further to my last email, please find attached a report I did last summer for Dave Smith, then MD. It's a long report, but that detail was agreed as necessary, and I would be grateful if you could read it as context to the update I need to give you. So just pausing there, would it be fair to say that this wasn't simply a report that passed across your desk? It was something that Mr. Ismay wanted you to read and discuss with you?
Yes.
So he's assuming there, is he not, that this is a subject that you would have already discussed with directors of the company, the chief executive, general counsel, or Mr. Granville?
That's what he's saying, yes.
Do you recall whether you did, in fact, discuss the issue of Horizon integrity with any of those individuals named there?
I have no recollection of discussing it with any of those individuals.
Were you concerned to be told, so early in your tenure, that the integrity of the system from which you derived your financial accounting data and information was being challenged?
My recollection is that the report was shown to me partly for Mr. Ismay to describe the role that he was doing and the function of his team, but also clearly to alert me to the fact that there had been challenges to the integrity of the system. But as I understood it, those had all been addressed at the time.
So is the answer you weren't concerned at all?
I was aware of the challenges. I don't think I was unduly concerned.
You would have known, would you not, that if the Horizon system lacked financial integrity, then the financial statements for which you were responsible might not be true, fair, and
absolutely.
In your previous roles, had you ever come across a situation like this before, where users of the business's accounting system were saying, we believe it lacks financial integrity?
No, I hadn't.
It's your evidence that I believe you had no independent recollection, so you have no independent recollection of reading this report. Is that correct?
That's true. I'm sure I read it, but I don't recall reading it.
And you don't recall whether you had any discussions with Mr. Ismay, albeit this email does tend to suggest that he wished to discuss the matter with you?
I think it's highly likely that I discussed it with him as part of my induction. I don't recall the precise conversation.
We can see what Ernst & Young said about the consequences of inappropriate privileges or accesses to the system. So in the left-hand column under background, we see that the last paragraph in the first row reads, unrestricted access to privileged IT functions increases the risk of unauthorized, inappropriate access, which may lead to the processing of unauthorized or erroneous transactions. On the face of it, these statements indicated, did they not, that Fujitsu staff had the ability to access parts of the Horizon system in a manner which was unauthorised or inappropriate. Is that fair?
That's my understanding now. I don't think that was my understanding at the time.
It's right, is it not, that that statement was in direct contradiction to what you've been told by Mr. Isbay about the absence of backdoors into the Horizon system, was it not? If it could lead to the processing of unauthorised or erroneous transactions, it couldn't possibly be right that sub-postmasters had complete ownership of their accounting, could it?
No. Again, I'm sure I would not have interpreted this at the time as being a reference to, even a theoretical reference to Fujitsu employees being able to access individual branch accounts. This is talking about the Horizon estate as a whole and a perceived weakness relating to the inappropriate use of privilege, access, authority. It's a serious matter, but I don't think I'm sure I didn't relate this back to individual sub-postmaster accounts.
What do you think you understood it to mean when it referred to the processing of unauthorised or erroneous transactions?
Well, just that there was a theoretical possibility.
Why was it only theoretical, though? This is saying that they have, as a matter of fact, unrestricted access, that they have inappropriate privileged access. So they did have this access. It wasn't purely theoretical, was it?
Well, it doesn't say how many or how many incidences there had been, whether indeed they'd ever been used, but it's showing that there is a control weakness that could give rise, in theory, to unauthorised transactions broadly within the Horizon Online estate. I can read it completely differently now in the knowledge of hindsight and understand exactly what that could potentially mean in terms of individual branch accounts. But again, it doesn't speak to the suggestion that could be done without a sub-postmaster's visibility of such a transaction.
Let me just ask you, Mr. Day, isn't Ms. Hodge right when she asks you to remove the word theoretically from your answer in this sense, that unauthorized access in the way that Ernst & Young are describing could take place? That wasn't theory. However, there was no evidence that it had taken place.
Yes, I would agree with that, sir.
Right. Thank you.